Hello and welcome back. It's time to pick books for the month of September. And each month I play my TBR game to pick the books that I'm going to read for the month. And in the last few months, I have decided to add a bingo board to that. So that's been a lot of fun. However, I have realized I need to be more honest with myself about the bingo. The idea is that I play my TBR game until I get a bingo on my bingo board, and I did do that last month. And then I'm supposed to prioritize reading the books that are on the bingo line, and I have not been doing that. And I definitely did not do that last month. So I'll put up on the screen what the bingo looks like that I got while playing the game. And then here's the actual results of what I ended up reading. This month, what I've decided to do is I'm not going to clear the board until I actually have read a bingo. So here's what we're working with. I have the board set up. I've put in the books where they go according to the books that I actually read. So you can see the line that I originally got a bingo on. Yeah, there were three books off that line that I didn't read. I read all sorts of other books. I read books that, started with the letters that, fit on my bingo board. I read a couple of books that don't even match letters on my bingo board. Basically, I'm in a mood reading kind of situation, but I still like doing this to pick out books and have a pile of possibilities. So I'm going to play using my old board. I've put pictures as placeholders for what letters I've already used. And I'm just going to play until I get another bingo. Maybe it'll be the same line, maybe it'll be a different line. And we'll see at the end of this month if I'll actually have read the bingo that got picked or any bingo on the board. I could be strategic and at least do that, but I probably won't. So let's go ahead, start playing. I'm excited to pick the books and see what is going to be on my pile of possibilities for the month of September. So let's go ahead with the first pick. The letter F. Okay, maybe Unipiggy's telling me like, no, Nicole, you should really work on that first line. Science gone awry. Okay, I'm here for that. Okay, let's get started with book number one. It needed to be a book whose title starts with the letter F and had to do with science going awry. I don't know if this book will really fit this prompt, but I'm gonna go with it. There's definitely something going on in the background of this book, and that is called Found Audio. This is the book that I'm going to go with for this prompt. This is about a historian who I believe comes into possession mysteriously of a cassette tape. And on the cassette tape, there is another person who is talking about, I think, someone else who has gone missing. And there's like this whole complicated mystery surrounding like who gave her the audio, why is she now missing, who is the audio really about, and on it goes. It's like, it feels like Inception, but there's found audio. And there's definitely something mysterious going on. Is it science having gone awry? I don't know, but it's the closest I have to that. And I have the distinct feeling that that may be the case because I'm pretty sure this is science fiction. If all of that is wrong and I come back to read this month, because I need a book whose title starts with the letter F and is somehow science gone wrong, I will either replace it with a different book or it'll become a unicorn pick. But for now, this is the book that's going to go on there. I'm looking forward to finally giving this a try. It's a really short book, so I'll probably read it regardless of whether or not it ends up fitting this prompt. But I don't feel like I'll truly know until after I've read it. However, if you've read that book and you know whether or not it's about science gone wrong, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know so that I can fix it ahead of time, I guess. Okay, I should mention that some of the letters that got picked last month may come up again, like the letter V. I did read the violin conspiracy, but I had two letter V's on the board, so that can still come up. But I did take off the letters that are for books that I've read, and there's no other like empty letter on the board. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, it's not an important detail, but I thought I'd mention that. All right, let me see what the next book's going to be. The letter A. Oh, a one-word title. I know what I want it to be. And there's at least two letter A's on here, which is probably good because I think there's a second book up there that I want to read. Let me go get them. All right, I'm really excited about this next one. I did indeed know and was able to pick the book that I wanted for a book with a one-word title, and I ended up going with Annihilation. However, if you saw on my bingo board, I did need two books, and so I did pick a second book, and the second book is going to be Almond. So let me talk about these one at a time, starting with Annihilation. This is also another small science fiction book, and I forget what book it is that I read, but there was something else that I read this year, maybe just a couple of months ago, that a couple of people left comments saying, "Oh, you really liked that book. You'll probably really like Annihilation." So I can't wait to read this. I think there's supposed to be a little bit of climate fiction in here. There's like a whole area X where people are going into and not coming back out. That reminds me of a short story I read earlier this year. And yeah, there's it's supposed to be science fiction that's a bit more about biology as opposed to physics or engineering and that kind of thing, which is something that I really enjoy reading about in science fiction. So I'm hoping that I like this and that I like Jeff VanderMeer's writing, because if so, I know this is a series and hopefully it's a series I can enjoy and get behind. And it's always nice to find series that are shorter. And I know all the books in this are relatively short. I feel like at some point they start getting longer, but I feel like the first few are shorter. The second book that I picked, that's also a one-word title, is Almond, and I'm excited about this. This is a book I recently hauled and recently mentioned, and there were a couple of people who were also like, "Oh, this sounds really good." It is a coming-of-age story. I know a few people who said they had read it, said they really enjoyed the story. I love pretty much any good coming-of-age story, and I have the feeling that this is going to be a really nice one. It also gives me a chance to try out these smaller Nomad editions that are a new thing that is happening. They're inspired and based on the pocket book size books that are, I guess, popularized in Japan. And there is definitely, yeah, I'm interested to see if I like books in this size and if they work for me. I feel like this would be a nice replacement for a mass market paperback. And somebody did ask about the font size, and I realized I hadn't shown that. Like, the font is a pretty decent size. If I compare this to, say, Annihilation, for example, you can see that it's normal size font. I would almost say that Almond is even bigger, which is nice because sometimes when you make books smaller, the font becomes tiny, and that's not the case in that book. So excited about those two picks. Let's go and see what I get next. All right, let's keep it moving. I do kind of like the way the bingo board looks with the pictures up there. That is kind of fun. All right, let me just keep going though, because I don't have a bingo. The letter V. There it is. I knew it would come up again. Matches my outfit. I don't know if I'm going to regret wearing this shirt today or not, but I guess there's only one way to find out. Oh, with the letter V? I think I only have like two books at this point whose titles start with the letter V, and I'm pretty sure I know what they look like. I'm still over here because, just as I suspected, I don't have a book whose title starts with the letter V that matches my outfit. So it's a unicorn pick. However, I'm not going to pull out of my unicorn because in my unicorn right now are books that are on my TBR that I don't own. And I decided I'm going to wait to pull from those until I actually like get a bingo. Like maybe that will finally be my reward is when I actually read the bingo line. I can pull a book and buy myself a new book. That's not going to be the only time I buy new books, but like that'll be an excuse, and maybe those will be most of the times I buy a book. In the meantime, I'm going to pull a book out of the bucket that the unicorn lives in, and in here are books that have been on my TBR for a long time. In fact, some of them so long I might have read them, I might have unhauled them, but they're definitely TBR vets. So let's see what I pick. At one point, they were color coordinated. I've actually taken all the hot pink books out of here because I have something else I want to do with those, and those are the longest books on my shelf. So this should, in theory, be a medium to long length book. We'll see. Oh, Olive Kidder. That was for Olive Kitteridge. I have not read that, and it's not on my own unowned TBR. So let me pull again. Okay, green. That is going to be one of the shortest books, assuming it's one I own. A random past TBR book. Mm. Okay, I did this to myself. Well, there's plenty of those, so I'm gonna drop that back in there and let me pull that up and let's look at it and see what it is. So I have been keeping track of books that were on past TBRs that I haven't gotten to, at least for last year. And so I have a list of those, and I'm going to pick a random book off that list. And before I can do that, I need to pick the random number. So I have my own little random number generator to make sure that it actually works. So let me just have it generate a random number and see what number off of that list of past TBR books I need to read. Number 45. Okay, so let's go over to the sheet and see what that gives me. All right, let's scroll down. Number 45. I have read some of the ones off of here. Oh, and I've read number 45, which was Nine Coaches Waiting. Okay, let me pull another random number. How about number 34? We passed that. Did you see what number 34 was? Oh, it's already highlighted. That's totally a coincidence. I think because there was one other time I was supposed to get number 34, and it's East of Eden. Okay, I did not see that coming. Let me go get the book and let's talk about it. Okay, I don't know if I seemed shocked in that last clip, um, but I was shocked by that last pick. So, East of Eden. Okay, definitely doesn't match my outfit, but that's not what it had to do with the unicorn prompt. John Steinbeck. Now, this is a book that I've been saying I've been wanting to read, and that is true. And I keep going back and forth. People talk about this book all the time and how much they love it. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. I think I just keep hesitating because it features one of my least favorite things, which is families that have a lot of infighting. So I like a good family story, but I don't like when the story is about how they're hating each other and that kind of thing. And I've basically been promised that that's what's going to go on in this book, but I do still want to read it. I do think that John Steinbeck writes a good novel and he writes good families. Like, he really understands the dynamics of how families work. So it's on the TBR, it's on the pile of possibilities. We'll see what happens. I don't know what else to say. And I'm just realizing I didn't mention, because I sometimes do, that the prompts this month are just random prompts that I have. I have the last 2 months did prompts from Herkiad, but if you saw how my week of reading books for Herkiad went last month, you know that I pretty much like mood read and randomly chose a different prompt as opposed to the one that I had been supposed to focus on and da da da. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm still going to have a week in the month of September where I focus on only reading books specifically to match them and try and complete a Herkiad prompt. But that's not going to happen during this game. All right, let me choose another book. Okay, I already have the letter A, so let me click again until I get a letter that hasn't come up yet. Likes A and B. The letter J, again with that former bingo line. Oh, ask David for a prompt. That's fun. That's fun. Okay, for the Ask David prompt, this is a fun little thing that I came up with. I decided to ask my book, David Copperfield, to recommend me some sort of prompt. So basically, the idea is that I'm going to take my magnifying tool, which I have right here, and I'll put it over a random line in the book, and I somehow need to find a prompt to finish the sentence or match the phrase or that kind of thing. So I'm going to try doing both a video clip of my choosing the phrase as well as just a picture, and whichever one works better is the one that you'll see up on your screen. But for the first one on page 303 in my book, I got the sentence, "We had almost finished dinner when taking a step or two towards the," and so I decided to finish that sentence. And what were they taking a step or two towards? The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. So this is a book that I found whose title starts with the letter J that I felt like made sense in terms of finishing that sentence. It also helps that The Jungle is my members book club pick for the month of August and September. And so I do need to get this book read. So convenient that I can fit it on my TBR and that it worked for this prompt. because I didn't think about that and had forgotten that I need to squeeze that book in somewhere until I went and looked at my J shelf. But there were two J's on the bingo board, so for the second one, I picked another random phrase out of the book. These two ladies now emerged from their retirement and proposed to journey into the night. No, journey to the end of the night. I guess that's what these two ladies are going to do, which seems totally unlikely for some Victorian women, but it does complete the phrase and completes the prompt. What is this book about? I don't recall. I think it's postmodern, which may be a problem. No, maybe it's not. I don't actually recall what this book is about, partially because it's actually book two in this series that I was most interested in. I have heard really strange things about this book. And we're just going to leave it at that. I mean, like, the cover itself is weird. And so instead of just telling you what I think this book is about and being totally off, as I probably have been in most of the books that I've described, I'm just going to share with you that that's why I want to read it, because I really want to read book two. And do I remember why I want to read book two at this point? Nope, don't remember that either. But we're going to start with book one and see if I ever make it to book two. But at least I remember that I want to read book two if I like book one. Let's just keep going. All right, here we are back again. Somehow I missed that there were two letter J's on the board when I spun, but oh well, whatever. It gets me closer to a bingo. All right, let me see what I'm going to get this time. Hopefully the letter C, because then I'd have a bingo and I'd be done, but I probably need more books. Let's just be honest. The letter T. Hauled in 2025. That's like a really random year, but I think I know why I put 2025. I had a couple of different options for this prompt, but I ended up deciding to go with the Tatami Galaxy. And I will admit that I ended up choosing this book for slightly self serving reasons. And that is because I bought this book last year, but since then, the Nomad editions have come out, which are the slightly smaller books like Almond. And one of the things, and probably the first Nomad edition I spied, was of the Tatami Galaxy. Now, I don't know actually, now that I say that, that it is put out by Nomad Editions, but what I do know is you can now buy the Tatami Galaxy in this size. And so I want to read the Tatami Galaxy at this point because if I really like it, I want to get them in that little size if I really like that size. So I kind of need to read Almond to see if I like that size book, and then read the Tatami Galaxy to see if I want to buy the series in that size because they're just so cute, to be honest. But that's not why I originally wanted to read the Tatami Galaxy. So let me tell you about this book. On the back, it describes it as an unfulfilled college student hurdles through four parallel realities to explore what might have been and what should never be. And I really like parallel universes, and more than parallel universes, parallel realities or alternate history kind of things in science fiction. So I'm hoping I'm really going to enjoy this. It's supposed to be a really popular series. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it being a college student age protagonist, but hopefully that works for me. I think it'll work better for me than if it was somebody high school age, but we'll see. I don't know why. Like, I like younger than high school and older than high school as my protagonist. It's rare that I like an actual high school student as the protagonist, even if it's in an adult novel. So we'll see how book one of this goes for me in this series, but that's the book that I'm going to choose for this prompt. Okay, am I gonna regret saying that I like wanted more books? Probably, probably. All right. The letter C. There it is. Bingo. A book that everyone has read. I tend to read a lot of those. Oh no, it's too early for that. Okay, I'm gonna have let me. I'll be back with the book. And finally, for my bingo, I needed a book that everyone has read. And this is always kind of like weird to say. I read a lot of books, and a lot of people are always like, I've never heard of this book, but it sounds good, or this, that, or the other thing. And I looked at my shelves and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of these books that I don't think anyone would say that everyone's read. The one that first popped into my mind is Carmilla, but I really want to wait and read that in the month of October because in October we're reading Dracula. And at the very least, I don't want to read Carmilla until I've read Dracula. But does that make sense? Because it really came first. Maybe I should be picking Carmilla. Okay, the book I brought over is Cutting for Stone. But now that I'm saying all of this out loud, maybe I should pick Carmilla and just wait until the end of the month to read it. That's what I'm going to do. Let me go get it. Okay, real-time changes. Carmilla. This is the book that everyone has read. I do feel like just as many people have probably read this as Cutting for Stone. Either way, I feel like at this point, both books are really well known and loved and read and hyped, which I think is why both of them have had multiple printings, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to go with this. So if you don't know what this is a story. Some people describe it as like sapphic vampires. I don't know that I would totally go there in every single way just based on the time period. But yeah, it is predating Dracula by 26 years. It's the original vampire story. And it's steeped in sexual tension and gothic romance, which I'm really curious about based on the time period that this is written. And I'm really excited to see for myself what I think. I have this like sort of sprayed edge edition, which is not the type of thing that I usually buy, but it was nicer looking than the other option that there was at the store when I went to buy it. So I was like, okay, sprayed edge as it is. So here we go. Carmilla's going on. This is going to work out well. I did want to read this and buddy read it, and I did want to read it around the time of Dracula. And since it came out first, it does make sense to read it first. So yay, I wasn't expecting that, clearly. All right, let's look at the sum total of things. We're going to start with the bingo line and what I should be reading this month so that I can actually get a bingo, so that I can then get the reward of pulling a book to buy out of my unicorn. Yeah, I do kind of like this. And you know what, guys? This is going to look so nice and doable. It's just these 3 books. So these are the 3 books that I should be prioritizing this month if I want my little reward. And it's kind of satisfying how they kind of match. Like the 2 blues are the same color and they both have the black on it and then the red mixed in there. So Found Audio, The Jungle, and Carmilla. I feel like I should be able to do this. The Jungle is a book club read. I've got to read it by the end of this month. Carmilla is a book that will make sense to read before I start my October TBR. And I've been wanting to read Found Audio, and it sounds mysterious and interesting and sci-fi and all sorts of things I like. And it's not that long. In fact, the 3 of these together is not that long because The Jungle itself, even though it's the expanded edition, I believe has notes at the back. Nope, I lied, but it's still not that long. So if I finish those 3 first, or at least at some point, I also have this other pile of possibilities that I can be working on. And that includes all of these books, which are some more books that I'm really excited about. East of Eden by John Steinbeck, Journey to the End of the Night, the Tatami Galaxy, Annihilation, and Almond. I definitely want to get to Almond and Tatami Galaxy sooner than later. Annihilation, I've had multiple people tell me I will like. East of Eden, if I'm not going to read it now, when am I going to read it? So those are my possibility books. I plan on working on reading some of the oldest books on my TBR, which other than East of Eden, I don't know that any of these count towards that, but that's okay. I'll figure out that problem later. I also am going to be working on my Herkiad challenge. So probably what I'm going to do is plan out at the beginning of the month and see where all of these books would fit into Herkiad and maybe semi-prioritize it by that. But I'm also trying to work on reading books that I have hauled this year. And at least Almond, I know I have hauled this year. So that should help with that as well. Carmilla may have also been hauled this year, but I feel like that's not true. I feel like I hauled that last year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Those are all the books that I have on my TBR and that I'm planning on reading for my videos in September. Let me know what you plan on reading in September, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.